Our responsorial psalm today is probably one of the most famous of the psalms. It's a very popular selection for funeral masses, along with the first reading, actually, because they're full of comfort, even in the midst of sadness and suffering. The psalm reads, "Even though I walk through the dark valley, I fear no evil, for you are at my side with your rod and your staff that give me courage." And then from that first reading, "The Lord God will wipe away the tears from every face." We are walking through dark times. Evil has revealed itself recently, particularly in the Middle East and the attacks that have been occurring this week. However, evil is never far away. It simply doesn't exist in those far-off places apart from us. It's right here. It's in our very state. For the past few weeks, you've heard from a number of speakers during the announcements concerning the upcoming vote on Issue 1. The Archbishop himself preached at every parish in the Archdiocese. And there were, interestingly, a small number of parishes who chose not to play his homily. I guess they didn't feel that it was all that important. And they got a letter, and I will leave it at that. But maybe the only people you haven't heard from, at least directly on these issues, are the ones who stand right in front of you, your priests. And so, what could I say that I guess hasn't already been said? More importantly, though, how should I say it? How do you win over those who might be struggling with this issue, maybe those Catholics who aren't quite fully on board, I guess you could say, with church teaching on this issue? And so as I was praying on this, a thought came to me. Has there ever been a time where the church was so actively engaged like this before? Because personally, I've never seen anything like this, right? And so I had to go pretty far back. I had to go back to 1933. The Vatican and the Third Reich had signed a concordat, a treaty in that year that the church hoped, obviously naively in hindsight, they hoped that it would protect the German Catholics from persecution. And Pope Pius XI at that time stated that he hoped that it might, quote, "safeguard the liberty of the church in her mission of salvation in Germany." However, almost immediately, Nazi Germany began to violate it and began to suppress the Catholic Church's influence by restricting her to purely religious activities. Maybe that sounds familiar. It should. And so Pope Pius responded 5 years later by writing an encyclical named Mit brennender Sorge. Translated from German, it means "with burning concern." And the encyclical was written specifically to the entire German people. It was the first encyclical written in a language other than Latin. It was written in protest of Nazi Germany, their policies towards the Catholic Church, and in particular, human rights. There was no pre-announcement of this encyclical because they knew the German government would ban it. So they literally smuggled it into Germany, printed it by night, and secretly delivered it to every single Catholic church in Germany. And then on Palm Sunday, 1937, it was read word for word in every single Catholic church in Germany. In one section, Pope Pius writes the following: "To hand over the moral law to man's subjective opinion, which changes with the times, instead of anchoring it in the holy will of the eternal God and his commandments, is to open wide every door to the forces of destruction. The resulting dereliction of the eternal principles of an objective morality, which educates conscience and ennobles every department and organization of life, is a sin against the destiny of a nation, a sin whose bitter fruit will poison future generations. That was a prophecy. Anyone who knows history can look back at World War II and know that that was absolutely true. And I need not change a single word of it because it is directly applicable to our present situation in Ohio with Issue 1. One commentator of this encyclical, though, he noted that there was something present in this encyclical that was absent in almost all other encyclicals before it: anger. And so I'll be honest with you. I'm angry. Neither the Archbishop, nor Father Barry, nor myself can condemn the contents of Issue 1 any stronger. It is an absolutely abominable amendment. It is evil. Period. However, it's clear that many people don't want to hear that. Some argue that the church has no right to speak on these issues. Stay out of politics. But our Archbishop put that argument to bed 2 weeks ago in his homily. We not only have a right, we have an obligation, we have a duty to speak out on these issues. It would be a sin not to speak. I would have to answer to God because I wouldn't be taking care of you if I chose not to speak on this issue. Some would argue that the church shouldn't impose its values onto others. I find that argument a bit ironic, considering the amendment up for a vote does exactly that to each and every single one of you. In issues of morality and law, there will always be, without exception, an imposition of values upon someone. You all might want to drive 70, but the speed limit is posted at 50. The law and those who wrote that law imposes its value, in this case safety, upon each and every one of you. Laws do that by their very nature. There's no getting around it. This amendment and the ones who wrote it will impose their values upon you. Our opponents value the right of a 5, a 10, a 15-year-old child to make life-altering medical decisions over and above your right, your God-given natural right as parents to care for your children. Is that not an imposition? So yeah, I'm angry. But here's something else that's true. I don't think anger ever converted anyone. I don't believe that anger has the power to win any of you over. And if we aren't careful, if I'm not careful, that anger, it can overpower reason. And most importantly, it can destroy charity. That's when anger becomes a fire inside that just completely burns out of control and burns up everything and everyone in its wake. We should be angry about this constitutional amendment. We should be angry that it even exists. But we should also recognize that there are people out there who are broken, who are lost. They have no one. They have no family who cares for them. They have no support. They have nothing. And those people, they don't need condemnation. They don't need the fear of rejection and abandonment. They've got plenty of that in their life already. They need love. They need us to love them. I don't want to be sitting in a confessional 5 years from now and have a 20-year-old woman come in literally falling apart because when she was 15, she had an unexpected pregnancy and had absolutely nowhere to turn, no one to go to, except for a constitutional amendment. Laws can't love people. Only people can love people. I have heard too many stories from women who have had abortions. Every single one of them was or is afraid. They're afraid of abandonment and rejection. They were afraid that they were unlovable before the abortion, and they are afraid that they are unlovable after. I want them to see what we have to offer them as a family, as a church. Love. Our archdiocese has pregnancy centers that have diapers stacked from floor to ceiling, clothes from floor to ceiling, ultrasounds so they can see their children, nurses that want to care and help them. This parish, our parish, has a ministry to feed people when they have nowhere else to go. I want them to see that. I'm not angry because I'm mad at them. I'm angry because they are being sold lies. They think we hate them. They think we hate them because all we want to do is impose, impose, impose. But all I want to do, and all I hope all of you want to do, is love them, but love them authentically. Part of loving somebody authentically is telling them the truth. Part of loving them authentically in this case is telling them, no, there are some things that are never legitimate options. Taking a child's life at any stage in the womb is never legitimate. It never solves anything. But that doesn't mean we're abandoning you. We love you. We want to walk with you. We are here with you every step of the way. That's what they need to hear from us. That's what our opponents tell them we don't want to do. Paul writes today in his letter that God will fully supply whatever you need. He writes, we can do all things in him who strengthens us. But that's only true if we permit God to come into our lives and supply those needs for these people. So I'd ask all of you today, please vote no, but don't stop there. All of you have either time, talent, or treasure. All of you have one of those things that you can give to somebody in need who finds themselves in this situation, can donate to a pregnancy center, can volunteer your time. Do that. Make one of those three your wedding garment, like the gospel says today. Help us show these women, help us show our society and our culture, our state. Help us show them that it's the church that actually loves these people, not a law. Not a law that will only do one thing: destroy them.